my parents worked effectively to send me to Christian school. My parents at one point had split up and they were dealing with their marital issues. They eventually got back together in a big mess. But one year, we weren't going to be able to go to Christian school. And I didn't know this until a couple of years ago. But my baseball coach while I was in high school, Mr. Gill, Coach Gill, Dwayne Gill was his full name, but I would never call him that. It's Coach Gill. I recognized that, hey, the Hovis kids would not be able to go to school there. And so, out of his own pocket, paid for our tuition. Then I started hearing stories about how the schools would do these fundraising events, and the fundraising events would get to scholarships, and they would give those scholarships to kids who couldn't afford to go to school. And turns out I was a scholarship kid. My brothers were scholarship kids. That's not because my parents didn't work. They worked very, very hard. They had a hard time managing their money, but it's expensive to go to Christian school. We were scholarship kids, not because we were the smartest or the most athletic, though we were smart and we were athletic. I eventually, through baseball, got a scholarship, an academic scholarship, combined with my athletic ability to go play Division I baseball. But we weren't there because of that. We were there because we were the working poor. We couldn't afford it. And so for years, I didn't know that. Like if you have ever gone to Christian school, you know, oh, those parents are wealthy. They're coming in and very expensive cars, and they're dropping those kids off, and we go to their house, and they've got a big yard and a big house and all that kind of stuff, and we didn't. In fact, we had one of our cars was a green cargo van with no seats in the back. My dad laid down some carpet, and it smoked because there was some kind of like oil leak onto the engine block or I don't know what, but it would smoke, and we would just get into the back, and I was so embarrassed by that. And that's just the way we were. My dad did the best he could. Not gonna fault my parents. They did the best that they could. But when you have a conviction to go to a Christian school, simply put, and if you're wealthy, you can go to school, or if you're very poor, you can get scholarships to go to poor. But if you're in the middle, if you're making X amount of dollars, they tend to think, hey, you should be able to arrange your money, budget your money in such a way that you should be able to pay for Christian school if you want to. I think that conversation is misplaced. I don't think money should be the reason why kids don't get to go to a Christian school to learn about Jesus. Now, I'm a Christian, man. I'm not a perfect person. I'm not even close. I love Jesus. I need Jesus, man. I am a sinful person. The Apostle Paul in the Bible said, I'm the chief among sinners. I'm like, buddy, I think I might, we might battle on that one, okay? But I'm saying I believe that Christian education, for those who want to send their kid to Christian school, ought to be able to do so. And I don't think money should even be a factor. So my big, hairy, audacious goal is that anyone who wants to send their kids to Christian school ought to do so. Well, I want to make Christian education available for all. That's my statement. Christian education available for all. Well, right now, that's not the case. You can go to public education, and you can get indoctrinated with a lot of crazy things that I don't agree with, that the Bible doesn't agree with, that those kind of things, and we can talk about it. That's not the purpose and scope of this podcast, really. But regardless of what public education is doing, those kids get to go to school. How come Christian kids can't go to school? If we want to apply it to other religions, how come Muslim kids or Jewish kids or Catholic kids or whatever, why is it that there's this money gap between that stuff? There shouldn't be. So for me, it gets very personal for me. I was that scholarship kid. I was that poor kid. I was a kid whose parents were part of the working poor. I wasn't poor, we were working poor. And it's a crazy distinction, but it's true. People work as hard as they can and come home with next to nothing. That's where we were at. That was the scope that we were at. Certainly not enough to afford going to Christian school, Christian private school. Not even close. And if it weren't for benevolent donors and people like my baseball coach, Dwayne Gill, and those other people who contributed to those to those fundraisers, I wouldn't have gone. I certainly would not have the relationship with the Lord that I have right now. And I likely, because of various circumstances in my life that you guys have heard about, losing babies and a bunch of stuff, man, it's hard to say if I'd even be here. Like, life is tough, dude. Life is really tough. You need Jesus. I don't know how people without it does. Hey, and if you're in the position where you're like, man, I don't know about this whole Jesus, direct message me. We can have a theological conversation, talk about your hangups about the Christian faith and the Bible and whatever. I'm happy to help you with that. But for the scope of this lesson, while we're answering the question, how do you leave a legacy? Number one, go get something you're passionate about. Go get something that motivates you, that's very personal, that gets you emotional and fired up. Go create a big, hairy, audacious goal that you go repeating to other people so that when they hear it, they also get inspired. And that inspiration trickles back onto you, even if you're in a down, gloomy, unmotivated day. Make it so that you go and say, my life is dedicated to more than just paying bills, going home, and sleeping, right? It's got to be more than that. You have to have a direction, a North Star that means something much bigger than that. And that's how you leave a legacy. You dedicate your entire world around that. So I run a private equity company. It's called Hovis Capital. We acquire real estate across the country. Quite literally, every single deal that we do, a portion of that goes towards helping kids go to Christian school. Sometimes through scholarships, sometimes through, helping fund teacher salaries, sometimes building programs, operational expenses. Eventually, we think we're probably going to pick a fight with the Department of Education, maybe even the teachers union, and say, hey, we need to make it so that Christian education is available for all. And I'm not stopping until that happens. So I'm planting trees under which the shade I'll never sit, right? Because as I grow my private equity company, a portion of all of those deals are funding this cause. Not just now, but also when I'm dead and gone, when I'm buried. I've written it out in my trust. I've written it out in my will, if you're in a will state, that specifically spells out this is precisely how this ought to go. This is precisely how we should be dealing with these assets. We're not just going to sell them. We're not going to dump them. We're not just going to give them to my kids. My kids will be fine. They'll have a bunch of stuff that they get, but it's got a purpose to fund indefinitely. That's what passive income can do for you. Not just that you can live off of it, but that you can live an infinite legacy with your life. That's what we call the infinite good. That infinite good that you can leave with that passive income, dedicating it to that cause, whether that's saving dogs, helping babies, curing cancer, whatever it is that you get fired up about, man, use those cash flowing assets, acquire those cash flowing assets to live on, yes, but then let that live on beyond you. Let that live on infinitely, funding that cause. Man, if that doesn't get you fired up, to go through the steps of the real wealth formula, I don't know what is. I don't know what can. Why is it that, when we go back to reducing your monthly income or monthly expenses, when you reduce those expenses, why is it that I'm saying, hey, you may not want to go to Starbucks right now. You may not want to go on vacation. You got to get your expenses down to a point where you can go and say, hey, I got to get my passive income to this position. I got to get it to that amount. Because if I can get it to that amount, then I can live off of it. If I can live off of it, then I'm wealthy. I don't have to work anymore. Then you can do the work that you want to do, not the work that you have to do. Then as you increase your passive income, yes, maybe your expenses grow, but what also might grow is this cause, this legacy that you're leaving behind. All done so through acquiring passive income. Thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button right now. You don't want to miss the next episode. Every week, we drop practical money strategies and real stories that'll change the way you think about wealth.